Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Larson. I'm the acting United States Attorney for the Northern District of Texas. Thank you all for being here. We're here to tell you that late at night on July 4th, Friday night at approximately 10:37 p.m. at the Prairieland ICE Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas, 10 to 12 individuals dressed in black military-style clothing began shooting fireworks and engaging in acts of vandalism at the facility. And this was part of an organized attack. Today, my office has charged 10 individuals with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer. Each of the 10 are also charged with 3 counts of discharging a firearm in relation to a crime of violence. Each of these defendants faces a mandatory prison term of 10 years and up to life in prison. An additional co-conspirator was charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy for attempting to conceal and destroy evidence in relation to the attack, and he faces up to 10 years in prison. Let's discuss the incident. It was a planned ambush with the intent to kill ICE corrections officers. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest. It was indeed an ambush. The attackers used the vandalism that I described, which seemed to be designed to draw ICE personnel outside the facility, and it worked. After about 10 minutes of having convened, 1 or 2 individuals broke off from the group. They engaged in the graffiti, they damaged vehicles, and a guard structure. The graffiti had such words as traitor, ice pig, other profanity. Then there was a 911 call from the facility. 2 unarmed corrections officers went outside to speak with the vandals. One of the gunmen signaled using a flashlight to the vandals. Now, the gunman was not with them. He was separate and apart. At one point, the Alvarado police officer arrived, a single police officer. An assailant who was positioned in the woods shot him in the neck area. Another assailant who was across the street, nowhere near the corrections officers, shot 20 to 30 rounds at these unarmed corrections officers. There was an AR-style rifle found at the scene. It was jammed, apparently discarded by the attackers. The assailants fled. The Johnson County Sheriff's Office was able to stop a vehicle. There was a single driver in that vehicle. The sheriff deputy saw in plain sight a firearm. Another firearm was in the back seat, and there were 2 Kevlar ballistic-style vests also in that vehicle. There was a second encounter with law enforcement about 300 yards from where the police officer was shot in the neck. Sheriff deputies stopped 7 individuals. Some were wearing body armor, some were covered in mud, some were armed, and some had 2-way radios on them. There were a total of 12 sets of body armor found during various searches of vehicles, defendants, and the area around the Prairieland Detention Center. And this included a flag saying, "Resist fascism, fight oligarchy." Law enforcement officers found spray paint. They found flyers such as "Fight ICE Terror with Class War," "Free all political prisoners." One of the attackers' cell phones had cell phones inside a Faraday bag. A Faraday bag is something that is supposed to block electronic signals, and criminals commonly use them because they think it prevents law enforcement officers from finding their location. Over the course of the weekend, additional related searches occurred. We found masks, goggles, tactical gloves. One residence of one of the defendants, there was additional body armor. There was a cache of 9 additional weapons, spray paint, fireworks, and again, insurrectionist material. One of them was entitled Organizing for Attack, Insurrection, Anarchy. Due to the rapid response of local law enforcement, these individuals were quickly apprehended. This was an egregious attack on federal and local law enforcement officers, and it is part of an increasing trend of violence against them. Let me tell you just a little bit about assaults on law enforcement officers over the last few years in our district, the Northern District of Texas. In 2021 and 2022, we had 7 assaults each year against officers. In 2023, it was 11. In 2024, it was 18. And thus far, thus far in 2025, 9. And that includes this one. We want to tell everybody out there, this will not be tolerated. Those who use violence against law enforcement officers will be found, and they will be prosecuted with the toughest criminal statutes and penalties that we have available to us. This has been 72 hours of the hardest work that we have ever been involved in here in terms of cooperation with our federal law enforcement partners, our local law enforcement partners in the 30 years that I have been a federal prosecutor. So on behalf of my office in this community, I want to thank all those in law enforcement. You risk your lives every day to protect us, and this is a stark and horrifying example of how they protect us every day. I'd now like to turn the podium over to Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Joe Rothrock. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joe Rothrock, Special Agent in charge of the Dallas FBI Field Office. This incident highlights the dangers that local law enforcement face on a daily basis, and the charges just announced reflect the seriousness of the crimes. On Friday night, an officer from Alvarado Police Department responded to a call for suspicious activity at the Prairie Land Detention Center. Let me be clear, this appears to be a coordinated and targeted attack against law enforcement. Upon responding, that officer from Alvarado Police Department was shot in the neck. Approximately 70 law enforcement officers from around the area responded once the call for help went out. They did not hesitate to run into danger to assist their fellow officer. We want to thank them for their prompt response and dedication to protecting and serving our communities. I want to especially thank the Alvarado Police Department, as well as the Johnson County Sheriff's Department and the Johnson County District Attorney's Office. As part of the initial response, local law enforcement apprehended 10 individuals involved in the assault. This investigation is a priority for the FBI, and we've dedicated significant resources. We are committed to identifying and holding accountable all those responsible for this attack. Unfortunately, this is only the latest example of an increase in threats against law enforcement. The FBI will continue to stand with and work alongside our law enforcement partners to ensure that anyone who attempts to harm a law enforcement officer will be held accountable. This is an active investigation, and we will work tirelessly to hold all those accountable who are involved. Because it's an active investigation, we do need the public's assistance. We are asking the public to call the FBI if they have any information at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Josh Johnson. I'm the acting field office director for ERO Dallas. First, I want to express my gratitude to the officers of the Alvarado Police Department who responded to investigate the suspicious individuals and vandalism at the Prairie Land Detention Center. Your dedication does not go unnoticed. I'm relieved to hear that the officer who was shot is expected to recover from his injuries. Fortunately, no employees at the Prairie Land Detention Center were harmed during the shooting incident on July 4th. There was damage to both government and private property during the protest, and we are currently evaluating the extent of that damage. Violence, threats of violence, and attempts of vandalism at our ICE facilities will not deter our officers from fulfilling their duties. The courageous officers of ERO Dallas are on the streets and in our detention facilities every day, risking their lives to locate, arrest, and remove criminal aliens. We're thankful for the collaboration with our partners at all levels. We could not perform our duties without their support. This type of vigilante lawlessness is emblematic of the dangers federal, state, and local law enforcement officials face every day. Within ICE alone, our officers and agents are facing a 700% increase in assaults. We've deployed ERO Special Response Team operators to provide extra layer of protection at the Prairieland Detention Center. For our employees at Prairieland, I'm proud of how you conducted yourselves in this extremely dangerous and unwarranted situation. I want to personally thank you for your dedication, professionalism, and all that you do to uphold the nation's immigration laws.